Normally, when I film a YouTube video, I am so prim and proper and prepared and dressed up to the nines and so on and so forth, but I'm actually quite sick at the moment, and I've just been under the weather in general lately, so this is the most effort I can put in, to be honest. But first, before I get into my June 2025 favorites, I want to talk about two content creators who actually inspired me to make this video in this format. I have to give credit to them. The first is Nisa, aka Nisi Pisa. Girl, she has been making content for years and years and years, and I have been watching that content for years and years and years. She is hilarious. Hilarious. And so, like, grounded, down to earth. She's just a fun vibe to watch. And she has this series called Window Shopping, which I adore and I think is absolutely content genius. Basically, she window shops digitally on various like online fashion retailers, and it's just hilarious commentary, like fashion commentary. It's like online shopping with your best friend is how it feels like watching those videos. And the other content creator I have to shout out is Mickey Galvin. As you can see, I watched this video from her recently. She just came up on my For You page. What is the YouTube equivalent? YouTube homepage. Um, with this video, and I just thought it was so fun, so laid back, and I told myself, you know what? You've been watching Nisa for years. Here's another sign that you just need to make videos like this when you feel lazy instead of doing all of the hullabaloo and all of that nonsense every single time I decide I need to record. Okay, let's kick off the June favorites with one of my favorite topics, film. If you don't already follow me on Letterboxd, please do so. My username is Sona Baby because my name is Sona, and I am certainly someone's baby. So, in June, I didn't have a great film month in June, if I'm being honest with you. The main fashion documentary that I watched was High and Low, which is the John Galliano documentary. I do not recommend it. I do not recommend it. There are some beautiful shots from some of his shows and shots of beautiful garments that he made, and I loved that. And if it had focused more on just John Galliano as an artist, and if it had focused more on his artistic philosophy and artistic practices, I think this would have been a stronger documentary. But what this documentary actually is John Galliano's campaign for public forgiveness. So, if you don't already know, a handful of years ago, John Galliano got canceled for getting drunk and yelling slurs at people. And yeah, he was rightfully canceled for that behavior. But if you follow fashion, then you know that in the subsequent years, he has pretty much been forgiven by the fashion public for sure, but I think also by the wider pop culture public. Because when you see the response to that one Maison Margiela show that he did, oh my god. So I don't think that he needs to be doing all this campaigning for forgiveness. And if I'm honest, the documentary left me with a sour taste in my mouth. They had one of the victims in the documentary, and when he said that he still hadn't felt like he'd gotten a full apology from Galliano, girl, like my heart broke. The only person who he should be seeking an apology from are the people he victimized, the people he yelled slurs at. That's who he should seek an apology from. And they're saying in the documentary, I didn't get an apology from him. What are we doing here? What's going on? Why was this made? I was just baffled by that. Um, some of the other films that I watched this month, I have watched Materialist now like 2.5 times. It was bad both times. On my TikTok, you should go follow my TikTok, I made a 10-minute long video talking about how I think the materialist hates women. And I'm approaching that stance from the point of view of I think the materialist hates its women characters, but I also think if it's trying to make a point about modern dating and modern love, I think the stance that it takes is very hateful towards women. And there were a couple of choices made in this film that I just found shocking. Like, I just found shocking from a writing perspective, and I'm gonna, talk about that more for sure because it's been on my mind. It's been bothering me. I was not a fan. But you know what I was a really big fan of? Past Lives. I give it 5 stars, girl. I give it 5 stars. Past Lives and The Materialists were both directed by the same person, Celine Song, which is why I'm comparing them. Watching Past Lives and seeing how sincere it was made me hate my Materialists more than I already did, and I think it definitely, like, made me angrier because I was like, "See, you are capable of excellent writing. You are capable of creating real depth and real love and, compatibility and chemistry on camera. Where was any of that in The Materialist, you know?" One of the other truly excellent films that I watched in June was Malul Celebrates Its Destruction. This is a short documentary. I highly recommend it to anyone. I believe it's available um, on the Palestinian Film Archive. I'll put, like, the proper name for where it's available on the screen. But this is a beautifully shot documentary about a town called Malul, where each year, very ironically, on Israel's so-called Independence Day, the former citizens or residents of Malul are allowed, they are allowed to travel back to their hometown and have a picnic. One day out of the year, they're allowed to visit their home. Crazy. And so they have a picnic, and so there's beautiful shots of this picnic, which honestly feels like such a celebratory event, but it's sort of juxtaposed with these very ghostly shots, like, archive footage of the town and of the people of the town, and also juxtaposed with some of the elders from the town's community standing or sitting in front of this massive, beautiful painting of the city, and talking about everything that they see in this painting. "That's the church, that's the mosque, that's where my cousin lived." It's just like a beautiful reflection on this town, and it made me think a lot about, in Hamilton at the end when there's that line, "Who lives, who dies, who tells your story?" That's sort of what this felt like, where I was like, "Who is telling the story of all of the other Palestinian towns?" And I wanna hear those stories, I really do. Honestly, this film was truly incredible. I think if nothing else, if you don't wanna commit to a 30-minute brief documentary that is available on the internet for free, fine. Please just do me a favor and watch the last 5 minutes. The elder who has been telling us about the painting of the town, we see a shot of him outside, and the way he speaks about everything that he has been through, what his townsfolk, his family have been through, is devastating. It is just very devastating.
طب ما إني قتلوا 6 ملايين يهودي.
انا قتلتين انا قتلتين اللي قتلهن روح يقتلوا له.
عارف بالله عليك عليهم.
انا قتلتين انا ما قتلتش بس.
I think everyone on earth needs to hear that. Moving on to the next film, Talash. I am Indian. I love an Indian film. This is one that came out a long, long time ago. It is basically like a crime thriller. A police officer is grieving and also trying to solve like a very mysterious death involving a celebrity. And I felt this film was incredible at establishing an atmosphere. I think that that is the real reason you should watch this film is that it really pulls you into the world. And it's just kind of intoxicating to watch. Also, something I just have to talk about. I watched the F1 movie. I'm a big fan of Formula One. I think the F1 movie has a lot of problems. I could talk about its problems at length. But for the first time in my life, I experienced a D-box seat.
A what now?
And for those who are unaware, a D-box seat are those seats that move and shake in the theater. And this was one of the best cinema experiences that I have ever had. It was so worth the price of the ticket. The F1 movie, if you can find it with a D-box seat, go watch it just for those. So fun. My true comfort film is Y tu mamá también. Girl, I love Y tu mamá también. Everyone talks about it being sexy. Like, I don't necessarily find it sexy, but I do find it very intimate. And because it's largely a road trip story, it has this quality of like helping you feel like you can escape with the characters. And that is exactly what I needed this month. Okay, let's get into television. But first, if you are on Serialized, go follow me on Serialized, girl. My username is the same as my Letterboxd username. It's Sona Baby. In June, I was homesick. I was homesick for New York, and very heartbroken about not getting to spend more time there. And so I watched Pretend It's a City, and it just made me feel that love and that passion for the city that I had when I lived there. If you love New York City docuseries or Fran Lebowitz, you need to watch Pretend It's a City. I think Fran Lebowitz is like one of the American voices. I really do. Particularly one of the New York voices. She's so quintessentially like grumpy New York, but the way Fran talks about New York is just a fucking privilege to listen to. I love her voice. There are some writers who just are distinct in how they write and how they speak, and she's one of those writers for sure. And I think that needs to be celebrated. I think those unique voices are really dying out. The other show that I watched in June that I recommend is The Lady's Companion. Now, this one's from my little girly girls, or anyone who enjoyed Bridgerton, because this is essentially Spanish Bridgerton. It is the story of a family who I think has 4 girls. They live in Spain, and this is during the Regency era in Spain, I'm guessing, like whatever the equivalent of that is for Spain. And so women can't go out on dates, they can't court anyone without a companion. And so our main character is a lady's companion. She goes, she stays with families who have daughters, and she provides company to the daughters and helps them date and secure a marriage. And honestly, I kind of need that in my life. Moving on to books, I read a handful of books in June, but I want to talk about my top 3 in this video. The first, which I think everyone needs to read, is On Tyranny by Timothy D. Snyder, who is a historian who mostly studies Europe. And in this book, he draws clear parallels between what Germany was experiencing in the 1940s to what we are experiencing right now. If you are the type of person who, like me, hears that description and thinks, yeah, I already know what's going on right now, you still need to read the book. It's better than you imagine, and it's very brief. It's a very short book. I finished it in a couple hours. You can just knock it out one day, one weekend. It's so potent. There's so much in it that I think is very impactful and necessary to just keep hammering home, particularly to Americans right now. Even those of us that feel like we know, we see the direction everything is headed in, it's still a necessary read, quite frankly. My favorite novel from this month was Yellowface by R.F. Huang. I previously have read Babel, loved Babel, thought it was honestly excellent. I am a big fan of when writers can write about complex things in a way that is very easy for a lot of people to engage with. I think accessible writing is an underrated skill, particularly when that can be managed and balanced with having your own style, you know? And I think that's increasingly rare, and I think it's only going to get increasingly rarer. I think with the rise of AI, people are going to be so focused on writing with style that they're going to forget that part of writing is just the mere basic act of communicating your message to people. If you're only fixated on style, your message can get lost. And I think that R. Huang is someone who understands that and is able to write in this incredible, accessible way. Just a fun, fascinating story. Maybe I shouldn't call it fun. It is about A white author stealing the manuscript, stealing book manuscript that was written by her Chinese friend who has since passed away. I don't want to spoil too much. Um, it's nuanced. It goes into a lot of nuances. Um, and yeah, you need to read it. The final book that I recommend from this month is The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. You know, earlier when I was talking about Fran Lebowitz and I said that she is one of those all-time American voices, I think Joan Didion is another one of those all-time American voices. When she writes, she has a style, baby. She has a style. Like, she writes like she has the strongest backbone in the world. I love it. It's so dignified, her writing. This book is actually a meditation on the death of her husband, and she just writes with so much grace. Okay, time to move on to my other favorite category, fragrance. For the uninitiated, I make a lot of fragrance content over on TikTok where my username is at aesthetics on trial. Usually when the summer comes around, you cannot free me from my coconut fragrances, from my suntan lotion fragrances, from my beautiful white florals, jasmine, tuberose, gardenia, all of the girls. You cannot free me from the girls. But this summer, you could. You honestly kind of could. For June, like I've mentioned, I really needed comfort. I really needed a hug. I was just not feeling summer. I still kind of am not. I'm warming up to it slowly but surely. Last month, I was not in the mood to really wear anything bright and summery for an extended period of time. And honestly, I'm quite devastated that I am not in the mood to enjoy those fragrances because I know I'll regret it as soon as the weather turns a little bit colder and those fragrances don't bloom in the same way in the fall time and the winter time as they do in the summer. But I've needed comfort, and so I've kept going back to some tried and true beautiful, warm vanillas. And the star of the show in June, my king of all kings, was Eau Dwell, the EDT by Diptyque. My review for this on Fragrantica describes it as a warm hug that doesn't just comfort you, it heals you. That's truly how this fragrance makes me feel. I feel healed every time I wear it. I'm like, yeah, something is right. Not everything's right, but some things are right in my life because I'm wearing this. It's a beautiful, dry, incredibly warm vanilla. As you can see, it says aromatic, but I'll be real with you. A lot of the aromatics that are in this, you really can't decipher them. I know a lot of warm vanilla fragrances will go overboard with the spices. This does not. It is just soothing, and that is why it is my winner chicken dinner of the fragrance category for June. The light changed, so I had to move. But my other vanilla winner for the month of June is Chamomile Satin by Dries Van Noten. Look, I love a beast mode fragrance as much as the next girl, and I understand the fragrance community's obsession with beast mode fragrances. God knows that when I pay for something, I want it to perform the way it said it would perform. I think that a lot of fragrances try to overpromise on performance when they're not meant to overperform. They're meant to be intimate. And for me, this is one of those fragrances that knows it is meant to be intimate and is intimate. It is, for me, the fragrance equivalent of one of those nights where you go to bed and pass out immediately, and you wake up having the best sleep of your life. And it's because every element was perfect. Your sheets were freshly laundered, they smelled beautiful, you were so comfortable, you were so soft. That is what this fragrance is to me. It's just perfectly comfortable. And I had a revelation when I was smelling this. the word that kept coming to my mind was the word clean, which is a word that I hate, when we're talking about fragrances. I don't like the notion of a clean girl fragrance. Um, but I was smelling this and I was like, "It's clean." Everything has been swept down, everything has been vacuumed, everything has been laundered. I'm safe, I'm comfortable, I can pass out. That type of clean is the clean that this evokes. And I think it's one of the very few interesting clean vanillas that I've ever smelled. I don't think we can speak about vanilla fragrances though without talking about Vanilla Musk by Nemeth. Girl, this is a Hall of Fame all-timer vanilla fragrance.
She's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment.
I have gone through maybe 6 bottles, and it's because it's the definition of cozy for me. It is the perfect embodiment of coziness, and I was actually convinced to buy a bottle of Tihoda by Indult because of how much I was going through my Nemeth perfume oil. It's just that great. If we're talking about Hall of Fame vanillas, we can't not talk about Vanille Planophilia 21 by Guerlain. I have heard many a tale of this fragrance over the past 1 or 2 years, and I finally got around to buying myself a genuine sample of it. Girl, the clone does not even compare. It does not come close. This is one of the most decadent warm vanillas I have ever smelled. You feel like you're melting into this fragrance. It's addictive, is the thing. I could not stop smelling myself after I sprayed this.
Oh, oh yeah. Oh, oh yes.
And it just had me on cloud nine. It is so transportive. If you love a vanilla fragrance, I think you should at least sample it. The final vanilla I'll share with y'all is what I would describe as a true summer vanilla. This one you can tell was made to be worn in the summertime because it has this suntan lotion, sexy day out on the beach vibe to it. You know, it's sunny, it's a sunny vanilla. But at the same time, it has the standard like sweetness and comforting quality that you would expect from any other vanilla. And I think it balances both qualities very well, and it does it better than any other fragrance that I've smelled that is in this quality. Because it is summertime, I feel like I do have to mention two at least of my favorite white floral fragrances. The first is Jardin de la Orangerie from Dries Van Noten. It is one of the most beautiful, actually, it is the most beautiful orange blossom fragrance that I have ever tried. When I first smelled this, I said that it was so radiant and alive and just joyful. It strikes me that this perfume feels the way it must feel to see like a beautiful stranger across the room and have them smile at you. This fragrance feels like getting champagne drunk with your best friends at 1 a.m. on a Friday night. It feels like going on your dream vacation and having perfect weather every single day. It is so bright and so alive, and I think everyone should sample this if they are into citruses or white florals. The other white floral winner that I have for June is A la Nuit by Serge Lutens. And for context, the real white floral winner for me for June is Fresh Jasmine. I went to my best friend's house and she gave me some fresh jasmine from her mother's garden, and it is one of the most addictive smells. Like I smelled it and I was like, yes, I understand why jasmine is referred to as a narcotic scent. The jasmine that my friend gave me was picked and bloomed, but it had been put in the fridge. It was a little, maybe just like a little naturally funky, but it hadn't gone intensely indolic. It was still just green, fresh floral. And I wanted to find a jasmine fragrance that matched that scent as close as possible. And one of the top contenders I've found so far is A la Nuit by Serge Lutens. This is very much like a freshly picked jasmine blossom. Like it started to blossom, and that's when you've picked it and turned it into a fragrance. That's what this scent is. It's not been in the sun for too long, and it's not a baby. It's right in the middle. As far as I'm concerned, it's damn near pitch perfect in terms of a photorealistic jasmine, if any of you are on the market for that. The next category I'm going to briefly touch upon is fashion. It's another one of my favorite categories. If it begins with an F, I probably love it, to be honest. Food, fragrance, film, fashion, fountain pens, all good stuff. But in the fashion realm, these are my favorite sunglasses to wear at the moment. It's not really picking up in this atrocious lighting on my MacBook of all things, but this is stained glass. I got these vintage off of eBay. I believe the brand is called Turo. I just love them. I just love them. The other fashion item I want to talk about are fans. And there's something so chic about whipping this out of your purse, fanning your lover, fanning yourself. And my hot tip, which I have talked about on my TikTok before, I will spray whatever fragrance I'm wearing for the night out on it. And so when I'm out on the town, whenever I am fanning myself, I'm just wafting my fragrance all over the joint. And it's kind of a flex, but that's my recommendation. If you don't have a hand fan already, what are you doing? They're so cheap. Go get one. Let's do two more F categories, the first being food. In June, my go-to comfort food and favorite food was a fucking smash burger. I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong with my town, but it is so incredibly hard to find a smash burger. Every place I go to has a burger this goddamn thick. How am I supposed to eat that? How am I supposed to bite into that? Have some sense. Smash that burger down. But they're not doing it. And the places that do it are charging me $20, $30 for burgers and fries. I don't know if that is the going rate in major cities, but in my not so major city, that is not the going rate. The other F category we're going to talk about is fountain pens. I am very persistent about using shimmer inks and sheen inks, which are known to clog up fountain pen feeds. But my truth is that I love sparkle and I love shimmer, and I think I should be allowed to sparkle and shimmer in all situations, including in my journal, which is why I use shimmer inks. My favorite ink of the month is Autumn Morning by Van Diemen's, and it's a beautiful, beautiful gold ink. No matter what you do, this will have a shimmer and a shine in it when you write with it. A lot of shimmer inks, the issue with them is that you have to keep shaking it up to get some of the glitter. But with that one, no matter what you do, even if you don't shake it, it will still write with so much glitter and intensity. That's been the best gold ink that I found so far. But my two favorite fountain pens, this one is a little cheapy. This is the Tachikawa. I believe, like, it's just called, like, a calligraphy pen. It's a dip pen, but the line variation that I get from this, nib, it's Zebra G nib. It's like a super thin flex nib that opens up very easily with, like, the slightest pressure. I have not found a regular fountain pen that gives me the consistent line variation and quality that the Zebra G nib does on the Tachikawa. But in lieu of a good flex nib, I am really into calligraphy nibs and 1.1 stub nibs. And this is my beautiful Lamy Joy, and I have a chunky 1.5 stub nib on it, like a calligraphy nib. And also in this is a beautiful reddish shimmer ink that I'm really enjoying my sample of. I'm finally about to let y'all free. This is the final category. This is the hobby category. I mentioned junk journaling last month, and it's still in my life. I still love junk journaling. I'm actually doing a lot more fragrance journaling than I have ever before, and I want to make a full video about that. But my true star hobby for June was oil painting. Oh my gosh, I have never oil painted before. I've done a lot of acrylic painting, a lot of gouache painting, and dabbled in watercolor here and there, though I don't enjoy it as much. But this was my first time oil painting. My best friend does a lot of oil painting herself. She has a painting studio in her home, so I've been going over to her house because she has all of the stuff, and she set us up with a beautiful, big big old canvas, and we have been painting together, and it's such a privilege and a joy, and honestly just feels like a luxury to be able to make art with one of my best friends and to be able to learn a new skill, learn how to paint in a new medium. How cool, how fun, how exciting. Um, and what I'm really loving about oil is okay, hear me out. I have sensory issues, and I think oil is the perfect medium for the freaks like me who have sensory issues because it is so luxurious and decadent in texture. When you're painting, you can feel it so smoothly, and you have so much control in oil. I feel like in oil, I have more control than I do in any other medium, particularly like with gouache and watercolor. It's so easy to go wrong, whereas in oil, it's so easy to fix anything that you fuck up on, at least in the earlier stages of the painting. But throughout, it just has this like luxurious quality that I really enjoy. I'm a very sensory girl. Like, apart from the sensory issues, I don't know, being in touch with all of my senses. And I think it is very rare to find like a good tactile experience, truth be told. I think fashion can sometimes give us an amazing tactile experience. I write a lot with fountain pens because I like the tactile experience that I get from them. But in terms of creating and experiencing a tactile reaction that's smooth and soothing and just rich, there is nothing so far that has compared to oil painting, and I think I'm in it for life. I think I need to set myself up with an oil painting apparatus, not necessarily a studio. We're not there yet, but I think with a few colors and some paint thinner, I think I'll be in business. But yeah, that's all I have for y'all. Those are my June favorites. Thanks for sticking around if you did. Lots of love. Mwah. Join me next time.